fire release, wind release, and lightning release? What if Naruto had employed a training regimen that consisted of these three chakra natures throughout his training period with Jiraiya, and by doing so, creating a Keke Tota, being a line of jutsu combining these three nature releases, somewhat mimicking that of the Tsuchikage's particle style, and possibly making him just as famous. So, without further ado, what if Naruto had Blaze release? Not to be confused with the Uchiha's Black Flame, nor Scorch. So, with that out of the way, roll that intro. And with their arrival back at the Leaf, Naruto and Jiraiya would follow a fairly similar path than they did in canon, with Jiraiya sending them back in at the check-in station and then heading to the Hokage Manor, while Naruto instead would, as per usual, scream his little "I'm back world" over the Leaf Village, as he would once again interact with Konohamaru and Sakura, which would lead them to inevitably return to the Hokage Manor, where it would be revealed that they would be participating in yet another bell test. But before the test starts, it would be explained to Kakashi that, or at least in private explained to Kakashi, that Jiraiya had probably became the student in those 3 years' time, so he suggests that Kakashi go all out from the start. He would also point out some things he thinks Kakashi would have to know to even be able to keep up. He would reveal Naruto's adept sensory ability that he had tapped into near the ending of their training, and on top of that, he would reveal to Kakashi that he should probably not attempt to mimic Naruto's hand signs, as a lot of them would possibly even disrupt Kakashi's chakra network if he doesn't know how to channel them properly, meaning the Sharingan would not be enough to copy those jutsu. And, as you might have guessed, Kakashi would take this to heart, as Naruto would later on be called to the side just before the performance, as Jiraiya would request that Naruto does not use Sage Mode nor any of the higher versions of the Rasengan, meaning Naruto would be locked to the Rasengan and the Odama Rasengan. Obviously, Naruto would accept this and reveal that he was never actually planning on using any of the elemental Rasengans, as he wanted to show how much he's grown this time, meaning his physical capabilities and his direct jutsu, meaning he would be using his Typhoon or Hurricane Jutsu, Flaming Hurricane, in this fight. Jiraiya would request that Naruto steers it away from the audience, with Naruto questioning why there is an audience in the first place, which would reveal to us, the fans, that practically half of all the people that know Naruto, meaning the entire Rookie 12, or what remains of them, and even their senseis would be present, to witness how much Naruto and his peers had grown within this time. So this is where we would move on to a Naruto and Sakura versus Kakashi. Obviously, off the bat, they would, in this case, be using teamwork, as they already knew that from the first time they had participated in this test. And on the other hand, Kakashi would have prepared his Sharingan ahead of time, scoring him some insults or at least some jabs from Naruto, asking if he's that scared of them. Kakashi would laugh, and Sakura would tell Naruto not to taunt him, as it might be their end, with Naruto, as per usual, attacking Kakashi. This would reveal to them that the Kakashi that Naruto had attacked had been a clone, and from within the forest, he would scream, "Begin," as somewhat of a reminder to the first bell test, where Naruto had leaped ahead before the time was right. But this time, he was able to dispatch the clone himself. This is where things get fun, as there would be no extreme struggle and the need to rely on Make Out Paradise to win the fight, as Naruto would constantly lure Kakashi into precarious situations using his clones and enhanced physical ability and sensory to get Kakashi at a point where Sakura could attack. This would obviously only work for the start of the fight, because as soon as Kakashi starts getting serious, it is a lot harder to keep up with him, meaning Naruto would turn to a more aggressive approach as he would, for the first time, show off his flaming hurricane jutsu. It could be heard from practically a mile away as Naruto would scream, "Blaze release! Flaming hurricane!" as a hurricane of fire would build up from the ground upwards, setting a large portion of the ground ablaze, leaving both Anbu and Jonin alike to perform water-style jutsu to prevent the entire leaf from burning down. Meaning Naruto had just scared the ever-living shit out of Kakashi, who is currently hiding. But as his entire focus is on staying hid away from Naruto, Sakura would be able to take this opportunity to land a punch, meaning that Kakashi would actually take injury, as Naruto and Sakura would be able to secure a belt, meaning that they had indeed won the belt test. Everyone would, as one might guess, be impressed, and the next few days would be spent in celebration of their newfound skill. But as usual, a precarious hawk from the land of wind, or the village hidden in the sand, would arrive to reveal the kidnapping of the Kazekage by the organization discovered to be called the Akatsuki. This would settle in a distribution of Team Kakashi, or at least the renamed Team 7, consisting of Naruto, Kakashi, and Sakura, as they would be deployed to the land of wind to save Gaara. As things are occurring, or as time is progressing, it would be at least visual that Naruto is upset, as he keeps running ahead of the party, but knowing not to stray too far, as if he arrives there alone, he himself might be in equal danger to his friend Gaara. This is where it would be revealed that Naruto's mental state is practically crashing down on himself. That is, if he had asked Gaara to come with them to train with Jiraiya, or even had just merely asked them to stay in the Leaf a while, things might have turned out differently, as they might have been able to avoid Gaara getting captured. Maybe if he went to see Gaara every now and then, it could have been completely prevented. But nevertheless, eventually the group would arrive in the sand, and it would be revealed that Kankuro had actually been fighting against one of the members and is currently missing, which would lead Naruto to show off, for the first time, that he is in possession of Sage Mode, as it would help them track down Kankuro and get him some medical attention. This is where Sakura would get her first seat in the spotlight, as she would be the one to outshine Lady Chiyo, who as usual would attack Kakashi, mistaking him for his father, as she would eventually heal Kankuro. This would leave an interaction with them obviously getting an answer out of Kankuro, revealing that they had in fact got Sasori's cloak, wherein Kakashi would summon his hounds to attempt to follow the Akatsuki members' scent, and to their surprise, it would be successful, as they would catch a scent, Kakashi following along his dogs, and even sending another dog to inform Team Guy, who would be accompanying them in this mission, on where to go. This would result in them leaving the sand to approach their enemy, or at least to hunt down their prey. But in leaving hastily, as many of you might have guessed, this would result in the encounters with the Itachi and Kisame clones, which would actually change quite a bit on the Itachi side, but not so much on the Kisame side, meaning we would avoid the Team Guy encounter with Kisame completely, as it is majority canon, if not completely canon, meaning we would completely focus on the Itachi side of this entire little arc. So to start out with, we would see the encounter between the initial two groups, or the group of Team 7 plus Chiyo, or Team Kakashi plus Chiyo, against Itachi. So things might actually start off pretty simple, with the interaction at first being a lot similar to what it was in canon, until Itachi would catch the entire group in a genjutsu. This is where things would start getting extremely different, to where we would usually get an explanation of how chakra interacts with genjutsu from Chio. In this case, Naruto, after falling under the genjutsu, not necessarily knowing he's under the genjutsu, would attempt to locate Itachi using Sage Mode, meaning in the few minutes that he's standing still while Itachi appears to be a swarm of crows, he would use this to gather a minimal amount of nature energy required to pinpoint locations, and in doing so, he would unknowingly break the genjutsu, allowing him to square off against Itachi for a solid minute. And since one of the large reasons why Sasuke had gone rogue in the first place and why Naruto is so strong in the first place is Itachi. Obviously, Sasuke leaving because of Itachi and Naruto becoming stronger because of Sasuke leaving. Meaning Naruto would take this fight very seriously, having even pulled out a Rasen Shuriken, which would extremely surprise the group, as they had thought that what Naruto had showed a few days prior had been his full power, but it turns out not even close, as he would throw in Rasen Shuriken straight at the Itachi clone, who would attempt to avoid it, but as he would later against Pain, he would redirect the directory of the Rasen Shuriken to follow as Itachi jumps out of the way. This would result in the Itachi clone getting ripped apart, revealing to the group that this had been naught but a clone. This would in turn have Itachi break out of his state of concentration, where he would reveal to Kisame what had happened. Meaning they would now switch places, as Itachi would now stand guard over Kisame while he is controlling his clone to fight off against my guy. This would, as normal, end and the group would be off to their newest target or location, leaving Naruto and the rest of his team to progress after Gaara even just a little bit earlier. And, as one might guess, this means they might even arrive upon Gaara still being alive and only a portion of Shikaku having been extracted. This would obviously lead to some major implications, as they would at least see vague figures of the individual members of the Akatsuki, meaning they would be able to gauge that there are 10 primary members within this organization. But nevertheless, they would still attempt to save Gaara, as they would be thwarted by Deidara using his clay birds to swoop in and grab the Jinchuriki. He would point out that enough of Shikaku had been removed for Gaara to start dying, as the remainder of Shikaku's chakra is currently leaving his body, not having any physical form to cling to inside of the seal, the one that they had in fact broken. This would obviously result in something similar to canon, with Chio and Sakura remaining to fight against Sasori, and Kakashi following along an enraged Naruto going after Deidara. Obviously, Naruto would start leaking Nine-Tails chakra as soon as Deidara would start taunting him, saying that he's not doing close to enough to save his so-called friend. He would point out multiple times that the Kazekage, or One-Tailed Jinchuriki, is slowly but surely dying out, and Naruto is stuck right there in a game of cat and mouse. This would result in Naruto throwing a wind-style Rasengan, one much similar to, as I explained earlier, Boruto's. Obviously just slightly larger and not as destructive or close to as destructive as the Rasen Shuriken. Once again, surprising Kakashi, as he had, at least up until this point, thought that Naruto had showed them their arsenal. This is obviously a toned-down wind-style version of the jutsu he had showed them hours prior, probably having done so to avoid hurting Gaara if it made contact, which it in fact would, cutting off one of the wings to Deidara's birds, resulting in him dropping the Kazekage, quote-unquote, and jumping into another bird. But as Naruto's hope arose with Gaara dropping, he would see the bird or previous bird of Deidara explode. Obviously, to his knowledge, Gaara should still be inside of that bird, which means to him it looks like Gaara had been completely destroyed in the explosion. meaning he would probably leak upwards of 2 to 3 tails, meaning he is quite a destructive force at this time. There was no small progression into this amount of tails, but would be rather instantaneous, and his rage levels would be at an all-time high, as he would have the strict goal of killing Datara, meaning his speed and power would be amped immensely, as he would be able to actually make it close to Datara's bird, unveiling a normal Rasengan looking type of interaction with his current version of Blaze Release, which, as you remember, the only current Blaze Release jutsu in his arsenal is the Hurricane, which is going to take a similar form to the Rasengan, or at least the opposite way around. Naruto would attempt to put as much damage into a single throwable or movable Rasengan as he possibly could, meaning he would use his absolute highest destructive force, being a combination of fire and wind, to hit Datara head on. Obviously, he knows that he is not quite capable of doing this yet, but he would attempt it nevertheless, hoping that the Nine-Tails chakra seeping through him would give him an advantage. And he would be quite right, as when he would form a Rasengan, it would spiral into something much larger but would appear similar to his flaming Hurricane, which Kakashi would point out as he would jump back. He would see Naruto dragging it across the sky almost as if it was in his hand, not only practically vaporizing many trees in place, but setting a large portion of the forest on fire and even catching Datara in the aftermath, which would be pretty astronomical, as he would see the Datara bird practically being unexplodable at this point, Datara being heavily damaged, having taken a large majority of the Hurricane straight on, and would even discover that Gaara had been in the mouth of the other bird, meaning Datara would have to have made some major switch between the two, meaning Naruto would have gone into a frenzy for no reason. Obviously, this would lead him to create multiple clones, as he would force them to leap down to help Gaara, as he would in turn fight off against Datara. They would discover that Gaara had taken near no damage from the actual Hurricane Rasengan, which is what we will be referring to that, or at least the Vermilion Hurricane Rasengan, as Naruto would consider his approach on Datara. At this point, it would be revealed that Kakashi had many a mile, or at least many a meter back, had stopped to start channeling chakra into his eye. He would reveal that he had actually been pretty scared after that interaction with Naruto during the bell test, so he had worked to improve his Sharingan even further, and had discovered a secret ability that lies within it. As Naruto would almost be caught off guard by a Datara who had been hiding in the trees, trying to use a clone explosion, or what we thought originally was Datara exploding himself. But at first, it would be clear to be only a clone. This one obviously a lot less put together and could still clearly be identified as clay. Naruto would almost take the full C4 explosions, us knowing that that is kind of Datara's most powerful, as Naruto would all of a sudden be saved by Kakashi screaming something along the lines of Kamui. He had just activated his Mangekyo, not for the first time in this hypothetical, but would have nevertheless been able to save Naruto from a head-on impact. This is where we would relate to a similar battle as in canon, with Datara trying to get away, and even Kakashi possibly catching Datara off guard, Kamuing away his arm, resulting in him doing the proper explosion, which he would somehow mysteriously survive as per usual, relaying in Naruto practically having saved Gaara still alive. This would result in them returning back to Chiyo versus Sasori, or Chia and Sakura versus Sasori, as they might even have been able to help, having gone through Datara a lot faster, and would probably interfere around the point where the 100 puppets are nearing defeat, meaning that they won't interact too quickly, still leaving Chiyo and Sakura to have some of their spotlight, but this would also save a lot of energy. But nevertheless, after Sasori would take over another puppet, Chiyo would request to take care of this herself. And in letting her defeat Sasori on her own and discovering that Naruto's jutsu or Kakashi jutsu would have somewhat injured all the puppets, we would not receive the information about the bridge arc, meaning that that arc would technically not take place in this variation of the hypothetical. So, from here on going forward, we would see Chio and Sakura being successfully able to heal Gaara, somewhat saving his life without the cost of Chio's, meaning we could all return to our villages happily ever after, with Gaara reassuming the place of Kazekage and Team 7 preparing for their next encounter. But with the end to the Gaara retrieval arc, this part will come to an end. If you had been enjoying the first two parts to this series and want to see Naruto progress his Blaze release to a third element, make sure to stick around for the next part, as we will be going over another batch of training exercises consisting of both where the bridge arc would have taken place all the way up to where the Akatsuki suppression arc would take place, meaning we have quite a lot to cover. So if you'd been enjoying, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification to know when that part releases. Also, as per usual, I would like to raise awareness to the increasing suicide rates around the world. If you are one of these people who are considering hurting themselves or others, please consider calling this number, as it is a suicide prevention hotline. So before doing anything stupid or drastic, please give them a call, as they are an organization of people who really do want to help. And with that out of the way, this has been your boy Six. Have a nice morning, afternoon, evening, and peace.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Subscribe for more.
Yada yada does it.